Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at tank Fiddlesticks mid. That's not really something I thought I'd ever be saying, but right now it's being played a lot by pro players. Most notably, world champion Doingby has been spamming it in solo queue the past few days here, past week or so, and he's having a lot of success with it. So in this video we're going to be breaking down why it's so strong right now and how to play it. So why does this pick work? Why is it strong at the moment? Number one is that it does have a very strong laning phase. With your W start at level 1, it just makes your poke and your sustaining lane really strong, especially if you're going up against a melee mid lane champion. If you're going up against a melee pick, you can basically just walk right up to them, walk into the minion wave, use W on the enemy champion, use it on the wave, and you just sit there and you just like deal damage to the enemy. They can't deal any damage to you, and you just keep sustaining up with your W. The cooldown gets reduced by 60% if you get a fully channeled W off as well, so it just makes so that ability is pretty much up throughout the entire laning phase, and it makes it very difficult for champions to out-trade you early on in lane. Now, one of the biggest reasons as to why tank Fiddlesticks can work right now is that he does have pretty low AP ratios on most of his abilities, so you're not really losing out on too much if you're not building him full AP. He does have pretty good base damage though on his abilities, and he does have percent HP damage coming out of both his Q and his W, and this is where it does become problematic. We've seen this in the past on champions like Echo, the tank Echo, to where he had really high base damage on his abilities. He also had a lot of percent HP damage in his kit, so you could build him full tank and he'd still deal a lot of damage. So why bother building a champion full AP? Why would you be squishy when you can build a champion full tank and you can still deal a lot of damage? And that's kind of the case right now with this tank Fiddlesticks build. Because of Fiddlesticks' perma prio in the laning phase, his W is on a very short cooldown. You can clear out waves super quick with your W and your E. It just allows for you to have perma priority in most of your matchups, and that's really strong for solo queue, because if you're able to rotate first to early scuttle fights, if you're able to back your jungler up first if he's looking to invade, then that can just single-handedly win you games. By going for the tank build, it also allows for you to just stay in fights a lot longer, be a really good frontline for your team, be a really good disruptor. Once you hit that 40% CDR there with your core build, your silence is going to be on like a 4-second cooldown in fight, so that can be really impactful for your team. You have really good sustain coming out your W with the Spirit Visage in your build there, so it's just very difficult to kill this champion, and it's just a very obnoxious and annoying pick to play against. And because the last tick of your W is going to be dealing percent HP damage, by building this champion full tank, it just allows for you to sit in those team fights, get a fully channeled W off, benefit a lot from the percent HP damage coming out of this champion's kit, and it just makes it so that you can build them full tank and you're still going to be able to output a lot of damage for your team. So for how you should be looking to play it in the laning phase, you can play it very aggressively at level 1. You'll notice Doingby here going up against Zed in the laning phase. He basically just walks right through the minion wave up to Zed, and he just channels his W on Zed and the minion wave, and Zed really can't do too much against him. He's just going to be healing from that minion wave. He's going to be dealing damage to Zed, and it just makes it so that his early laning phase is really strong. So especially in your melee matchups, don't be afraid to play aggressive. Just walk right up to the opponent, channel your W on them and the minion wave, and you're going to be healing a ton and dealing a lot of damage to the enemy as well. Definitely look to play off of your early skirmish strength and priority, so let your jungler know in the early game what this champion can do. A lot of your junglers probably won't know what Fiddlesticks can do in the mid lane in the early game, so just let your jungler know you're gonna have perma priority if you're in a favorable matchup. If you're up against a melee champion, you're gonna be able to poke them out really well, so your jungler does have the ability to play more aggressive, look for those early crabs, or look for an aggressive invade play. Once you hit the level 6 as well, your skirmish becomes insanely strong, so look to be fighting 2v2 fights, 3v3 fights, look to be making roam plays with this champion, look for a roam opportunity bot lane, really good dive potential with this Fiddlesticks mid, because you're going to be running the aftershock, right? So you can tank up a lot of tower shots when you're diving, so if you see the enemy team low under tower bot lane, or if you notice your bot lane has the push and the wave is going to be getting under tower soon, then just look to make a roam play bot and you can dive very easily with this pick. Now, once you hit the mid to late game with this pick, you don't have that same one-shot potential that AP Fiddlesticks does or that your jungle Fiddlesticks does, so you do kind of have to think about the game, change your playstyle based on how the game is going. If you have really fed carries on your team, then just peeling for them, using your ultimate to peel for your team, get dive champions off your carries, that might be the better way to play tank Fiddlesticks in a lot of games. But obviously, if you do see the enemy grouped up, like 3 or 4 members on the enemy team, and you can get a really good ultimate off, you can still look to take take those, you can still look to dive the back line, but you should be thinking about your options in fights, and you shouldn't always be looking to dive the back line with this tank Fiddlesticks. So if we break down the setup now for this tank Fiddle, build path wise, you have a couple options here. So you got your standard build path of your Spirit Visage into Frozen Heart and then a Liandry's Torment. You want to go for the Spirit Visage and the Frozen Heart every single game as your first two items. You can interchange those depending on your matchup or depending on the enemy composition. So if you're in an AD matchup, don't rush Spirit Visage, obviously rush the Frozen Heart. If you're in an AP matchup though, you would want to rush the Spirit Visage. And then for your third item there, if the enemy team is heavy AD, you can go Zhonya's. If they have a lot of healing, you can go Morello. If they're very tanky or if they have a lot of HP stacking champions, Liandry's can be very good for you. So there's a lot of options there once you get to your third or fourth items, but Spirit Visage and Frozen Heart are very standard for your first two core items. Now for some rune setups here on your tank Fiddle, there's two different pages going around at the moment. There's either the sorcery secondary or the precision secondary. So the best win percent page right now by far is going for Aftershock, Demolish, Bone Plating, Revitalize, and then taking sorcery secondary, going for Mana Flow and Transcendence. By going sorcery secondary, especially taking the Transcendence, it allows for you to hit that 40% CDR there with your two core items. Frozen Heart is going to give you 20% CDR, Spirit Visage gives you 10%, and then Transcendence gives you another 10% there for that 40%, and it just makes your mid-game spike really good. Now there is also the precision secondary taking the presence of mind and the tenacity. This is the one that Doingbee is running at the moment. It is popular in Korea, but just win rate wise for the average Fiddle mid player, it doesn't do very well at all. It has like a 45% win rate right now in solo queue, which is pretty bad compared to like the sorcery secondary there. It has like around a 52% win rate. So just based on stats, the sorcery secondary does do a lot better, but Doingbee is running the precision secondary there. He is having pretty good success with it. So if you want to try out both pages, see which one you do prefer, you can go ahead and do that. And then for your ability maxing here, pretty simple stuff. You're going to want to take your W at level 1, Q level 2, and E at level 3. And then you want to max your W at first, your Q second, and your E last. Now for summoner spells, you do have two different options, or you do have, I guess, more than two different options, but the most popular right now, the ones that you'd probably decide on in most of your games, is going to be either the Flash Ignite or the Flash Teleport. Some players are running the Barrier in certain matchups, some players are also running Exhaust right now, so those are options as well. But if you're up against a melee champion, if you do have good kill threat in the laning phase, I would just look to take the Ignite there. If you're in a ranged matchup though, if you're going to get poked a lot in the laning phase, say you're up against a Syndra, or you're up against Cassiopeia, Vel'Koz, just any champ that can stay out of range of your W and just poke you out, you can look to take the teleport there to just help yourself have a little bit easier of a laning phase. And then if we break down some of his best and worst matchups at the moment, he does exceptionally well into most meta assassin picks, great into the Katarina, the Zed, and the Yasuo, who are three of the most picked mid laners right now, especially in the lower elos. He's just great into any assassin pick because he's got his fear and his silence, so if these assassins try to jump in during a team fight, he's got two different tools to just disrupt them and not allow for them to deal damage or to get onto his backline in fights. He's also got the Aftershock, so if they try to jump onto him, they're going to deal no damage to him at all. He's also got really good sustain there from his W, so it makes it very difficult for those champions to tread against him in the laning phase. So just a great pick overall into these assassin picks. For some of his worst matchups at the moment, Sylas can be more difficult to deal with. He can match your sustain in the laning phase, also come the mid to late game. You don't really want Sylas stealing a Fiddlesticks ultimate. That can just be game changing in itself right there. So Sylas is a pretty good ban right now if you're playing this Fid mid. The Vel'Koz there can just outrange you in the laning phase, can just poke you out, very difficult to deal with. Galio is really good into really any AP champion right now, just a really broken mid lane pick. So he's just a good ban in general. Cassiopeia can match your sustain damage in the laning phase, come the mid to late game as well. She can just shred through you pretty easily, even if you do end up building full tank. And then for the Malzahar, he can just press R on you in a team fight, just lock you down, not really allow for you to do anything. So really any of these 5 champions here are good bans if you're looking to play Fiddlesticks. So that is going to be all for the video, guys. Hopefully this now gives you a pretty good understanding as to why this Fiddlesticks mid can be a very strong pick at the moment. We've already seen it in the pro scene a little bit. I do assume it's going to catch on even more in the next couple patches here. So before it gets nerfed, definitely look to try it out if you do want to play something new, if you do want to play something very underrated at the moment. But with that being said, if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.